Today we're going to cover everyone's favorite topic, calories and macros. To start off with, those of us who have been doing a lot of kind of research and figuring out how all this stuff works for nutrition, trying to do the bodybuilding stuff, know macros. Macros are kind of one of the main things that we look at for calculating and counting for our diet, our intake, our nutrition. Macro stands for macronutrient, and it's basically the breakdown of different types of nutrients that you take into your body and how they get calculated and what they get used for, how much you should take in. So today we're going to go through what I've been using for my calculations. There's lots of information out there from different people on trying to figure out these things. There's different factors and multipliers. And realistically, it comes down to experimenting, playing around with a little bit of the numbers and seeing what's working for you. So today I'll go through what I've been using for calculations and what's worked for me. So today we're going to bust out the trusty whiteboard here to go over some of the details of calculating what you're taking into your body. So really the formula is pretty simple. Gaining weight, taking in more calories than your body needs. Losing weight, taking in less calories than your body needs. But one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that all calories aren't created equally. They have different values of what comes into your body based off of what you're eating. So for example, 1 gram of protein coming into your body equals 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrates also equals 4 calories coming into your body. 1 gram of fat, however, brings in 9 calories into your body, and 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories that are coming in. So for those of you that like to drink beer or have wine or doing the shots and having some fun with alcohol, it is bringing a lot of calories into your body for the amount of grams that are consumed coming in. So one thing we got to realize as well is that fats are important. Fats are needed for joints. There's all sorts of different parts of your body and your general health where you need to take in fats. So you don't want to cut out all the fats out of your diet. There are a lot of different diets out there, so things like ketogenics where you cut out kind of all starchy based carbs. You can still get carbs through vegetables, and it's kind of a way to put your body into ketosis. I'm hoping to actually bring a friend who promotes this kind of diet on at some point to be able to talk about how it's been working for him. For me, it's finding what works for you, what you like, what you enjoy, and something that you can stick to long term. But anywho, so our calculations here are really trying to figure out how we bring in different things into our body and what the buildup of those need to be. So one of the first things that you need to try to figure out is what is your maintenance calories. So this is just to get through a day, how many calories does your body use? So the number that I found that worked for me is taking your actual body weight and multiplying it by 15 to say your actual calorie input. Now, everybody's going to be different depending on the type of work that they do. This is kind of a figure that I found for a fairly non-active person, someone that sits at a desk. You're not a construction worker, you're not a laborer, you're not lifting stuff day in, day out, where you're spending a lot of energy and you need extra calories in your system. So that multiplier of 15 seemed to work for me, and that gives me I was at 152 when I was calculating that, times 15 gives me 2,280 calories, which is my maintenance calories. So if I continue to eat the same amount of foods that gives me that calorie intake, then my body weight stays constant and consistent. So the thought of being able to lose weight is expending, so you can do it a couple different ways. You can take in less calories into your body, which is one of the best ways to be able to reduce and be at a deficit, so you're being at a caloric deficit. Another way is being able to increase exercise. So if your caloric output exceeds your caloric intake, then you're at a deficit as well. So these are the kind of things that you kind of think of. So for me, you can do things like, so this last couple weeks, I've been trying to be in a caloric deficit, so I've been doing exercise and I've been taking in less calories to be able to track and do a little bit of fat loss. So the key here is figuring this out, and then it's about playing with numbers. Now, one of the things that I'll do is I'll put a link in the description to a spreadsheet that I use. So I created a spreadsheet that allows me to put in all the different foods that I want to eat, all of their breakdown of nutrients that are in there, and then I can just put them all in. I plug in my weight, and it figures out my caloric deficit or being able to put on weight, what I need to put into my system. So you'll be able to download that. You can play around with the numbers in there. Another good app it's called Myfitnesspal. Allows you to track all sorts of different things in there, and you can even just scan the barcode on something that you're going to eat, and it will tell you whether it's, what the breakdown of it is and how it would meet your targets that you set up in the app. So it's a cool app as well. So in the case of trying to lose weight, or in the bodybuilding world, cutting to try to get down to be lean so that your abs actually show through. The usual conversation about abs are made in the kitchen. You can't crunch your way to abs. You can make nice blocky abs that will stick out through your skin more, which is fantastic, but you still need to reduce the body fat above them to be able to make them pop through. So to lose weight, the calculations that I had been using is taking your maintenance calories, subtracting 500 from that, and that will give you the caloric intake that you need to be able to lose weight compared to your regular calorie intake. So in this case for me, it was 1780. I just rounded that out to 1800 and tried to hit a target of 1800. For those that are trying to bulk and gain weight, so trying to put on mass, the calculation is being able to add 250 calories to your maintenance, and that will give you kind of what you should be taking in. So the interesting part about these is that it only gives you the information of the amount of calories that you should be taking in. But for these two goals, there actually are different makeups and breakdowns of what you should be using from a protein, carbohydrate, and fat to be able to attain the different goals that you want in here. So calorie numbers are great. So for me, I was focusing on getting a lot of protein into my diet, and when I was starting between October and December, I thought, okay, everybody says I need to have a lot of protein. I'll eat lots of protein. Was eating lots of pork and red meat, and my fat content was really, really high. So as you can tell, when your fat content's high, you're actually taking in a lot more calories than you think that you're taking in. So I hadn't really got into calculating my macros up until December. From December until now, have been calculating my macros and trying to adjust my levels for my targets. So for me, I've been trying to do what's called a lean bulk. So trying to lose fat while gaining muscle at the same time. And for me, what seemed to work is I actually created a median. So it was a happy medium between a bulking and a cutting set of calories, and then adjusting my protein, carbs, and fats to try to hit that happy medium. And that happy medium really was working well for me. So for me, really the last 2 weeks and this next week leading up to being able to do my photos for the 250K challenge, I had been focusing on the losing weight aspect of things. So I adjusted my calories accordingly, and I've been losing, I'll show the numbers out there and how I track them, but it's basically the last 2 weeks lost about 2.5 pounds. So you can try and calculate it. Again, it's really playing with your numbers. This isn't something that you try for a week and then you go, oh, I'm not getting any results. This is something that you need to track over time and see how it's working for you, for your body, for the things that you're doing, and adjusting the numbers. You might need to be a little bit more aggressive, a little less aggressive. So for me, when I'm losing weight, I don't want to lose weight aggressively because it could be eating and taking protein back out of my muscle mass, and I don't want to lose that as I'm trying to beef up my muscles. So that's kind of the calculations that I have been using. And so what I'm going to show next is really around the breakdown of the nutrients of what your target should be for trying to do these two different roles. Now on to our breakdown of our nutrients. So When we are calculating the two different scenarios for either losing weight or gaining mass, this is where we play around a little bit with the amount of protein, carbs, and fats that we're bringing into our diet. Again, these are numbers and multipliers that have worked for me. And as I said before, is what I found that worked kind of best for me when I was trying to lean bulk, so lose fat and gain weight. So be at a caloric deficit, but in a nitrogen positive environment. So nitrogen positive environment means high in protein and lots of rest to be able to have your muscles grow. So lately what I've been going through is the cut and trying to lose a little bit of body fat. And the calculations that I've been using for being able to do that is figuring out, number one, we have our target calories that we are trying to get to. So our cut calories. Again, so that's a 500 calorie deficit from our maintenance dose. So for me, what's worked out well is I have been calculating the amount of protein that I'm taking in is my actual body weight times 1.3. And it's kind of high from a protein perspective, but the idea here is to make sure that my body has lots of protein in it as I'm reducing calories. So when it is looking for protein to feed itself, it's not coming to my muscles and looking for being able to break them down and using that in my body as nutrients. So there's lots of protein in my diet. Now, the tricky part with this is trying to take in high protein and low fat, because from a fat perspective, the target is 20% of my calories would be coming in, and that energy coming in from fats, which means it would be 356 calories, which is 40 grams of fat. And one of the trickiest things to do is being able to do high protein and low fat. So if we eat red meat, so I like eating pork, grew up on a pork farm, go figure. It has a high fat content in it. So it's really difficult to get that protein in and low fat. So I've been eating a lot more tilapia, fish. I don't like fish, but tilapia I've been able to actually stomach. So I've now found a way to cook it that I can even enjoy a meal, go figure. So doing that, and I use supplements as well. So whether that's protein powders, for protein shakes, or for also like protein bars to supplement the amount of protein that I'm taking a day. Egg whites are another great way, high in protein, low in fat. So that's how I've been able to make these two areas at the top work for me for being able to get my caloric intake. So the calculation then for carbs is whatever's left from calories that you're supposed to be taking in, this is what you make up with your carbs. So in this case, it's going to be your cut calories minus your protein calories minus your fat calories. That will give you a target of the number of calories to be able to take in. Divide that by 4 because each gram of protein is 4 calories. Each gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories, and you get the number of grams of carbohydrates that you need to take in. So that's why I created a spreadsheet for this, and I'm sharing it because this calculation is just a pain in the ass. Trying to figure it all out. So my spreadsheet, what I have done for figuring out my diet is I list all the different foods that I like to eat. The things that I typically do, whether it's variety. I'm not that much variety in what I eat. I kind of look at it as more as fuel. I can enjoy the things I eat, but I itemize them across the spreadsheet, and I break down their protein, carb, and fat counts. So it's easy to find it, or the nutritional value is on everything that you get with a sticker, or you can just look them up on Google on what 100 grams of protein has for 100 grams of pork or beef or chicken or fish has for its breakdown, and that information is readily available. So literally I can just plug in all of the information, then I can say, okay, well, I'm going to have 2 hard-boiled eggs, I'm going to have half a cup of egg whites, I'm going to have 100 grams of leafy greens, and you can just kind of put it all in there. So for me, I know what I'm going to eat tomorrow because I've got it figured out, and then I just grab the groceries and things that I need to be able to keep my diet on track. So that's how I've been doing the cut stuff. So for me, I've actually been trying for the last 3 weeks doing something a little bit more advanced, which is called Carb Cycling. So what I do is I play with these fat numbers and carb numbers so that the days that I am working out and lifting weights and I need extra energy, that I'm taking in more carbohydrates than I am fat. But I keep my caloric level the exact same. So that target of 1800 for loss, I keep it the same, and I play with my carbs and my fats. I leave my proteins the same so that I have the energy that I need to go and lift a lot of weight. And then on the off days, I up the fat and lower the carbs. So this will go up, this will go down, and I make up for the calories that way. And on those days, I'll try twice a week on those days to go and do a half an hour of cardio on the elliptical, the treadmill, because then, you know, I'm not eating from my glycogen or my glucose stores for energy. It's actually going and looking for fat in my body to be able to get the energy that I need for doing those. So that's why I kind of like this stuff. I'm a bit of a science nerd and a geek. So the fact that I can play with formulas and see how it modifies my body month after month, it's kind of neat to me. So bulking is kind of the opposite. So a few different factors for trying to increase muscle mass and weight. So in this case, it's interesting that our protein intake is actually a little bit less here. We're not worried about our body eating away at our protein from our muscles because we're not at a deficit for calories anymore. We're at a caloric surplus, so that we can actually go to the gym, lift a lot more weights, and have the energy to be able to try to push our body to adapt. So we don't need as much protein. In this case, I had been using a 1.1 to be able to calculate the amount of protein that I need to take in. In these scenarios, being able to use 25% instead of the 20 of your calories to be coming in from fat. So calculate that out to 632 calories, which gives me 70 grams of fat, and carbs are the remaining that I make up here. Same kind of calculations that we did before. So this is a lot of fun. For me, it was a challenge trying to figure out how I fit all that eating and all that food in a day. It was difficult of trying to pace and spread out my meals to be able to get the stuff into me. So what I found for me for trying to lose weight and gain muscle at the same time is finding a happy middle between these. And I put that in the spreadsheet as well. That kind of says, okay, well, what do the targets look like halfway between these two things? And I was using those numbers as my guidance. So I was able to fit in the food that I want. I wasn't spending a ton of money like I am now on supplements to be able to try to get the protein up without taking in the fats and things that I need into my diet. And that's been working for me. So that happy medium between the two has been able to do kind of what we call a lean bulk. So my waist size was going down, but my weight was increasing. So that was kind of neat. So I've got about, 6 months or so of experience seeing how my body reacts to the different types of ways that I put food into it and the way that I exercise. So I'm starting to kind of tweak in a little bit more now to understand where my values should be to be able to get the nutrients that I need into my system. So that's how I'm breaking down those sets of nutrients to come into my body. So the interesting thing next is actually tracking your progress. And this is one where it's really important. I've mentioned before around from a photo perspective, taking one now and then taking one 6 weeks from now. Stick to your plan, try it for 6 weeks, and then take a photo at the end of that 6 weeks. Resist taking a photo until then, and take a look at the difference of the composition of your body. Weight scales lie. It might seem constant. Like for me, for a while my weight was constant, but my shoulders were getting wider and my waist was getting narrower. So obviously changes were happening, but the scales don't really give you that kind of change, because what you will find week after week is you do not notice the difference in your body. You get used to seeing yourself in the mirror. It doesn't look any difference, but if you give your body some time, give it 6 weeks to try to make a change and adapt to the way that you're doing your exercise and your change in diet, it makes a big difference, and you get excited about seeing the changes. And if you don't see any changes, you recalculate. and you try some different things for the next 6 weeks. So again, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's about finding the right targets for yourself to be able to get there. And what I'm going to talk about next is really how you log your weight and really thinking about averages versus the day in and day out. Okay, tracking weight loss or weight gain. One of the things that I talked about is averages. And so it's important to weigh yourself at the same time every day. For me, I get up in the morning, go to the washroom, weigh myself, and try to keep that consistent each time. So I started tracking my weight actually on the one Monday here. So I just used the same weight before and the day before. So every day tracking my weight across the week. And the really interesting thing and why I really recommend and others recommend to average your weight is because when you check in on your weight for the week, and you might be really encouraged or really discouraged because our weight fluctuates up and down every day based off of what we eat, when we eat, how much exercise we've done that day. It changes daily on us. Women's even more so than men's. So you can get a really big shock either one way or the other. So in the case here on Wednesday, even though I was reducing my calories and trying to lose weight, I had gained weight compared to the start of the day by 0.3 pounds, right? But it can fluctuate a whole lot. So on my last day here, I was down to from 150.1 to 148.6. And if I were to look at those, I'm like, oh, look, I lost, 2 pounds, almost 2 pounds that week. But realistically, if we take a look at our average across week one, it actually averages out to 149.5, which actually is a 0.6 of weight loss for that week. So again, don't look for massive drops. It might happen for you, it might not. In my case, I don't want it to happen to me because I want to control my weight loss and make sure that my body's not eating away at my muscles and taking away muscle mass when I'm actually wanting to reduce fat. So my goals were to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week maximum. And if I was seeing more than that a week, I needed to adjust my nutrition plan so that that wasn't the case. So second week for me, what I did is logged it again here. So started off at 147.8, ended at 147.2, but if I take a look at my averages across here and I average my actual amount of weight during the week is 147.4, which when it looks at this loss of 2.1, no, what I'm doing is I'm subtracting my average for this week from my average from last week. So I'm not subtracting it from the very beginning. I'm subtracting it from my average from last week. So, whoops. So for me here, I can only have this number to be able to deal with, but each week, if you subtract your average from the week before to your average this week, that will give you your actual loss for this week. So I had actually brought myself down 2.1 pounds across the week. So for me, across 2 different weeks, it was a total of weight loss of 2.7 pounds. So that was right in my range of losing 1 to 2 pounds a week, which was good. I'm on target. My calories seem to be right. The plan that I'm doing is what I want to do. So if this was, 7 pounds across here, for me, that's no, don't want that to happen, right? Others might be great. They're wanting to really set up their actual weight loss across the week. So what you want to do again, I made a video about setting goals of what you're wanting to be able to do. Set goals and targets for yourself weekly that are realistic, right? Take a look at how your body's reacting to your nutrition plan and make your short-term goals based off of those realistic outcomes that you're seeing for your diet. So again, this can be maybe even increase the amount of exercise but keep the amount of food intake the same, or you want to increase the exercise and reduce the amount of food intake and calorie intake that you're bringing across. it's really something that you kind of have to play with, that finds out what your body reacts to more. Some people's bodies react a lot more to carbohydrates, others more to fats. And so you really need to kind of adjust and play with the numbers, which is why I really liked creating a spreadsheet for it versus, you know, an app that's got a specific formula, because we're all different. And, you know, a lot of the stuff that I've been finding online, again, they're 25-year-old, you know, peak of health males that are putting across the numbers that are working for them. And realistically, that's not me. I'm not there. I'm in my 40s and I have a different lifestyle and things that I'm trying to fit in. So I need to try to tweak it, let it run across a few different months and see what's working for me. So I wanted to share how I was doing things, how I was calculating it, what's been working for me, and how I've been adjusting it for my own body and my own schedule. You know, we're soccer four times a week, sometimes 5 if there's a couple of games for the 2 different teams, plus putting in workouts, plus spending time with Olivia. You know, it's busy as we have families and we get older. And so that's kind of one of the things that I wanted to share. Tracking is very, very important. Visual day-to-day can be discouraging. Tracking from photos, tracking from numbers, this is what you're going to see successes from it. So for me, as I end this competition and I'm starting to look towards my next long-term goal of actually stepping foot on stage in the men's physique classification next year, I'm going to be focusing on building lean muscle. So I will be doing the same kind of tracking going forward, but I'm looking for a certain upward trend. Weight gain from a muscle perspective takes a longer time than weight loss from fat. So it will be really interesting to log and see what's working for me as I'm going across and doing that. I'm even contemplating getting some of the scales that will actually do a body composition calculation as well, which will tell you what your actual you know, your body fat percentage is. So are you losing body fat? Are you gaining muscle mass? So when I'm gaining, what am I gaining? Am I gaining fat? Am I gaining overall just weight? Or am I gaining muscle mass? So it's something that I'm considering to do. I don't know if I want to get that crazy on calculations. I might just do the same sort of thing and rely on photos every 6 weeks to tell me, am I achieving what I'm trying to achieve with my body? So that's my goals. These are the kind of calculations I'm doing. Again, I've shared the spreadsheet so you can try and calculate what you're looking for in your diet, and hopefully set some goals, and hopefully this was helpful. So we'll see you next time.